This video help will cover the Payment tab. This information starts when you're in the Billing tab. In the last video, you saw how you are adding records in this area for the invoice so that when you build the equipment that is being sold at any one time period, for example, if a client returns and adds more equipment to the purchase, you would have a history record of all the purchases that are added to the individual invoice for the date time period that you're covering. Once you create the invoice, you should have an amount at the top up here that would be the summary for all the items ever purchased. Then you would also have the sum paid, and in this case, if you had additional items added, this would also would increase the amount of balance due equal to the new items that you've added to this particular portal. Now, the next thing you would do after you've actually printed the invoice and presented the client with the charges is you would take the payment. When you take the payment, you can do it in one of a couple of ways. You would have the history of the way that the last transaction was taken that paid off the balance at that time. If you added new charges to the billing tab, that information would now have to be covered as far as the actual amount paid. Now you have the option, obviously, to take a partial payment or a full payment. That's your choice. It depends on how you run your business. If this is a rental transaction where it's going to be repeating amounts of information, I suggest what you do is in the billing tab, put a line item for each time that you're billing the rental fee, and that will cover those date periods, so you'd have like a statement of all the items that were paid. That would still work also in the billing invoice, that if you presented a billing invoice with that date range on it, it would show a statement or actually a billable invoice, depending on how you want to send it out. You can use anything that's unpaid and use those in an invoice and then show them as a unpaid balance on the invoice, like a statement if the client is being billed separately. So all those things that you're doing there are important. And again, the billing listing will show you all the items that have been billing by that client. The report itself would act as a accounting ledger, so you could take and send this to your accounting person or your tax person for all the items that have been billed for each individual client, showing an individual sub-summary and a summary for all the items billed for whatever time period that you want to show. So there's a lot of functionality in this screen. Now, in the payment, be aware that you're going to put the date in. The amount due would be the amount due that it calls for in this field right here to show the balance. If you put the full amount and you're going to bill the full amount, you would put that in here. If you're going to bill less than the full amount, I suggest you put the amount due, also whatever this is, the full amount should be in there. For example, if this is actually a new $50 charge, put the 50 here, then show the actual amount paid. Maybe it's 25 or 10 or whatever. You would put that in, and that way it'll calculate the balance due and indicate the balance due also in this field up here. If you put just the amount of the payment in here and showed it here, it's going to show that this has been paid to zero, and that's not correct. It would still leave you a balance due, but it would not be correct as far as showing it in the screen and in the reports. This is a calculated field, so you don't have to change this. It'll edit itself. You would add in here paid with and the way it was paid. It could be barter, it could be cash, check, money order, whatever you want to accept. Then I would always suggest that if you're using a check or a credit card, you always put the full check number and the last four of the credit card. So if you have any questions on this information and you need help, please contact me using the chat system on the support site or sending me an email or call me by phone. Thank you for taking this video.